mismanaged. It was supposedly went into a pool, and it was, you know, most of it in the federal. During the time this last year, the people who were overseeing that money were dismissed, and nobody replaced them. And so every time I've asked, where's the $59 million, nobody knows where it is. And I'm just going to tell you that that's the number that I read in the newspaper at one time. I've heard 50 million, I've heard 55 million. We don't really know where that money, what it was spent on, if it was spent correctly. And that audit needed to be done. And it is a real question. I mean, when I'm asked the question quite often in the community, where did the $50 million go? And I say, I have no idea. And I you know, because we don't have someone looking over that money, and we didn't for almost a year, we don't know if it's spent correctly. I mean, and we don't know where it went to, and we also don't know where if it was ever spent correctly. So it's also an issue with me, and you know, we know that some of it wasn't spent correctly because we were able to follow bits and pieces of it. But how does your audit find that money and respond to that?
I'd like to have Mr. Willis speak, please.
So just for the benefit of Perry Smith, the $58 million that Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Ross are referring to is the carryover that was remaining in our restricted general funds, categorical funds, at the end of the 06-07 year, and over the course of the 07-08 and the 08-09 fiscal year. Portions and parts of that were spent down, which I provided to the board at the last board meeting. So I think what Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Ross are asking of Perry Smith is if those $58 million worth of funds were spent appropriately in the appropriate categories, if that helps.
You know, it's not only the money. Well, a year ago, I asked the administration for a report in public as to where the money went, and nothing was done. And again, I asked in January about the money, a report, and our chief financial officer, he started working on it. But back then, well, even a year ago, I was told the money was spent. It's all gone. Now, in January, they tell me the money, well, he wasn't doing the report. That's what he said. And 2 weeks ago, he gave us a report. And he said, well, the money is going to be spent on to balance the budget this year, and some of it to balance the budget next year. And so the money seems to appear, and I don't think I like that at all. First, I was told it was spent, and now that it is for this year and for next year to balance the budget. And I'm concerned about that. And also, 5 weeks ago, I was told that it was gone. But then they gave us a report, and they said, well, some of it's going to be just for this year and next year. So there are a lot of contradictions that are pretty serious.
But from what I understand, back when it happened, we had just gotten on board. They did say that some categorical money was left over, and then they began to spend the money, and they had to pull it back. And that is the amount that they pulled back from the schools. They gave it to the schools and they brought it back. And that amount that they brought back from the schools is what's balancing our budget for this year. And that's keeping people working and doing what we need to do until the next year.
Yeah, so let me clarify. So again, hopefully to help Perry Smith kind of contextualize this discussion, what I reported to the board several weeks ago after staff had been working for several months to pull this information together is that there was of the state categorical monies that were left in that $58 million worth of a balance. A significant portion of it, approximately $13 million, was either converted into unrestricted general fund, $3 million of which was actually taken back from the state as a result of cuts implemented in the 08-09 fiscal year and the 9-10 fiscal year. That $10 million that was converted to the unrestricted general fund is helping to keep our unrestricted general fund balanced. I did not say that any of that money was being used for the 10-11 fiscal year to help balance the budget.
I heard that very clearly.
So,
Mr. Ross, please, Mr. Willis, finish, and then Mr. Ross.
So the remaining portions of those monies in federal restricted carryover, primarily Title I, and in our economic impact aid in our state restricted carryover have been allocated to schools as carryover for the 09-10 fiscal year and are being used appropriately as deemed by their school site councils and their principals.
Thank you. Mr. Ross?
Yeah, one big issue I have is there's never really been an accounting of that money, where it went to, what it was used for. Money was put into things, shown it was there, pulled out, moved to other places. I don't know what was going on, but I asked on a number of occasions, where's that, what is it being spent on? And then of course there was nobody there to do the accounting. It's a big job to go back and try to find, you know, what came in, where it went out to, and I'm not questioning Mr. Willis's integrity in any way, shape, or form. He wasn't here. He came in after the fact, but there was reported when the previous administration came in, a $59 million worth of that money. We don't know where it is, and I'm certainly not seeing anything here that tells me that we spent that money correctly. And if that's part of the audit job, then I'd like to know where it is.
I just want to make a comment. Mr. Willis has been with us for a few months, and I don't want to, I think, my questions I don't think are related to him as to his handling the money. He's just been with us. Whatever has happened, he carried that problem.